Okay, welcome back to the 2S Horror Quarters podcast, another Ghosts of LA edition. I want to thank you for joining me again, and today we are going to cover what I consider to be the ghost of LA. Now, Los Angeles, I know, has a history of hundreds of thousands and millions of tragic stories, but in the true crime community, in the true crime world, especially in Los Angeles, to me, this is the ghost of LA, and we are talking about Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia, who on January 15th, 1947, was found cut in half in a vacant lot on South Norton Avenue. I know there are a lot of theories. A lot of people have written books, done interviews, claiming it was a family member that did it, or their father, or their great-grandfather, or their brother. I mean, sky's the limit when it comes to the theories, and I'm not discounting any of those theories, but this particular episode, I'll cover a few of those theories that I kind of lean towards being plausible, and we'll cover a few of those. It was a cold, clear Wednesday, kind of a brisk morning in the Leimert Park section of Los Angeles, and one of the residents, a Betty Bersinger, was heading southbound on a walk, pushing a stroller with her 3-year-old daughter Ann in it, and they were headed to a shoe repair shop to get a few things for Betty's husband. It was about 10 a.m. and again southbound on the west side of the street there, walking along the sidewalk. Now, there were homes to the north of this vacant lot, and there were homes to the south of this vacant lot. And because of the war, a lot of the construction, not only in this area, but other areas across the country, probably stopped. So this particular block would be the 3800 block of South Norton Avenue. And during the walk, Betty mentioned that there was some broken glass on the concrete, so she maneuvers around it. And as she's maneuvering around the glass, she kind of glances and sees something off to her right in the grass and in the weeds there, because these vacant lots had grass and kind of overgrown weeds, a lot of dirt, a lot of rubbish that people have thrown in there. And what she saw appeared to her to be a mannequin cut in two, a mannequin that is very pale, very white. And she knew something wasn't right. And looking around, it was the time of day that kids were outside riding bikes, running around, playing, and Betty thought, well, this could scare some of the kids, and something didn't feel right about it. So she continues on her walk, pushing the stroller south, crosses the street there, and knocks on the first door across the street and gets no answer. Moves on to the second house and gets an answer, and then that's when the call was made to LAPD. The call came in at approximately 10:55 a.m. Betty said, and I quote, "My goodness, it was so white. It didn't look like anything more than perhaps an artificial model. It was so white and separated in the middle. I noticed the dark hair and this white form." Here we are at 3705 South Norton Avenue. This is Betty Bersinger's home. So you can kind of see in relation to where Elizabeth was found. Here is an aerial shot of the distance between Betty's house and where Elizabeth was found, which was roughly 1,110 feet south of Betty's house. Here is a shot of the direction Betty Bersinger was walking. And this is heading southbound again on the west side of the street. Now, on the audio interview that Betty Bersinger gave, there was a little bit of confusion as to which house she knocked on and which house that someone answered the door. Now, I know it has been documented that she knocked on the first door across the street there. No one answered. And then the second house, when she knocked, someone did answer. And then from there, the phone call was made to police. But like I said, in Betty's interview, she had somewhat of a little bit of confusion as to which house it was, because it had been so long since that day to when the interview was conducted. Now here are those first two houses on the corner. I know 75 years ago things were probably a lot different, but to the best of my knowledge, these were the homes that she was referring to. Now, for the sake of Elizabeth and for the guidelines of the YouTube channel, I will not be showing these photos in their graphic detail. There are plenty of opportunities online if anyone wants to look at these photos. Just look it up and you'll see them in their entirety. I do warn you though, if you have not seen them, they are quite disturbing. So again, I will not be showing those photos in their graphic detail on this particular episode. So the call was placed at 10:55 a.m. and at approximately 11:07 a.m., the first two responding officers arrived. One Frank Perkins and one Will Fitzgerald. And as the morning progressed, as more police and authorities arrived, so did the word of mouth in the streets, so did the press. And at the time, there were 4 competing newspapers to get photos, to get interviews, to try to get the scoop. So the place itself became somewhat of a circus. Here are the lead detectives on the case. Harry Hansen on the left, Finest Brown on the right. And then here are some other photos. Like I said, I'm not going to show the mutilated pictures. I'm going to blur them out, but I just want you to see the positioning of Elizabeth at this point. And here is the street now, present time, just a regular neighborhood on Norton Avenue. And you can see here on the right about the corner here where the grass is where she lay, 54 feet north of this hydrant, and about 3 feet off to the left there is where she was, which puts her here right about the corner of this grass. Once all photos were taken, all documentations were noted, all evidence collected, photographed, Elizabeth's body was loaded into an aluminum coffin and into the coroner's vehicle, which at the time coincidentally was called Black Maria. Black Maria then headed downtown to the Hall of Justice where the morgue was located. There Elizabeth was taken out of the vehicle and weighed on some ground level scales. It wasn't until the following day, January 16th, that the autopsy was performed by Dr. Frederick Newbar. And Dr. Newbar has seen probably thousands of bodies and conducted probably thousands of autopsies at the time, but never had seen anything like this, nor had anyone else around. This was something new, something so grotesque that it was something that you couldn't even make up. Dr. Newbar was the chief autopsy surgeon for LA County at the time. Elizabeth's body was laid across the autopsy table, and her head was propped up by a wooden block. The final report, though gruesome, was quite informative in the context of the investigation. Female, obviously, between 15 to 20 years of age, height 5'5", and weighing approximately 115 pounds. Multiple lacerations to the facial area inflicted most likely by a sharp instrument, such as a knife or a blade of some sort. From each corner of the mouth outward, there were lacerations of over 3 inches long, forming that Joker-like smile. There were depressed ridges and indentations on Elizabeth's wrists, and this suggested that she was strung up somewhere while being tortured. Dr. Newbar's findings stated that the lacerations to the face and blows to Elizabeth's skull were inflicted while she was still alive. The face lividity, postmortem lividity, suggested that at some point after death, Elizabeth was face down. It's to be noted, too, that Elizabeth's body was drained of blood. Now, depending on what you read and who you may talk to about the case, they do mention that potentially there were 1 or 2 droplets there of blood, diluted drops. One was over a heel print and one in an empty cement bag. All other lacerations were said to have been inflicted after death. There were these crisscross type patterns etched on Elizabeth's body in a few places, and the pubic region was one of those places. It was like a tic-tac-toe type of drawing. Dr. Newbar, based on his report, suggested death had occurred within 24 hours or less. Also on Elizabeth's body, in some of the crevices, there were some cocoa fibers found, like from a cocoa fiber brush. So apparently she had been cleaned off, brushed off. Now I have researched this and read that there were 3 things that police kept close to the vest that they didn't want the public to know, and this kind of weeds out all the people claiming to have done this. Where one, Elizabeth had a rose tattoo on her left thigh that was cut out and placed into the vaginal cavity. Two, the pubic hair, some of her pubic hair, was shoved into her anal cavity. And again, this stuff is disturbing. Police had to keep that quiet to see if they found anyone that would know those two things. There were various scratches that appeared on Elizabeth's left breast, while a square piece of tissue was removed from Elizabeth's right breast. It was also noted that she had old scar tissue, probably from a previous operation. Now, police also noted that there was dew on Elizabeth's back. Because dew on that particular morning would have been there between 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., the timetable would have been anywhere between 2 and 6 as to when she was placed there. Now, after this, police needed to identify who she was, and at the time, there were no fax machines. So there was a machine owned by one of the papers that they called a sound photo machine, and the process is they take pictures of each fingerprint on Elizabeth and send that through the sound photo machine to the FBI, where the FBI at the time had to look through it pretty much manually. And not every photo made it okay. I mean, there were, I think, 6 to 7 of the photos of her fingerprints were blurred, so I think there were only 2 usable ones. At any rate, they were able to find 2 matches for Elizabeth Short, and it didn't take that long at all, within a couple of hours. There were 2 hits for Elizabeth Short's fingerprints. One of them came from the U.S. Army's Camp Cook in Lompoc, California. Elizabeth once had a job there. And the second hit came from Santa Barbara. Elizabeth was arrested for underage drinking, though they say she wasn't drinking, that she was just in this group people, but she was underage nonetheless at the El Paseo restaurant in Santa Barbara.